Today we'll talk about the neutral bow stance and how to really perfect it so you have a really stable base in all of your techniques for any self-defense context. Alright guys, so note that I'm going to start with a line on the mat there right between my feet so I have a little bit of a reference marker. Okay, so with my left leg, I'm going to go straight back. And just keep in mind that if you keep the trunk of your body facing 12 o'clock and you just lean back with your head, your leg is going to step straight back. And what that does is it lines up the front toe to the back heel. So I'm going to refer to that for now as the toe-heel line. Okay, so again, I lean back and I'll just naturally fall back that way. In fact, as your hip turns slightly in the process, your foot will naturally want to point at a 45-degree angle, and that's exactly the position and angle you want. Okay, so leave that one rooted there. The lead leg is the next consideration. I want you to push your heel out on a 45-degree angle, and notice you're pivoting on the ball of the foot, okay? And that should keep you on that toe-heel alignment while you unwind like that. Okay, so now all my toes are pointing at that 45-degree angle. I'm going to bend both knees down evenly and push them apart so there's tension, just like in a horse stance, and that way you have a bit of spring load and also some good support. Okay, so a couple of considerations. This toe-heel line keeps your vital targets tilted slightly away from the opponent. So in this case, you think about your throat all the way down to your solar plexus, bladder, and groin. Those targets are tilted away from the opponent slightly, so you have to get around my hands to strike. So you don't want to stand so wide that you're exposing those targets without any necessity, okay? All right, particularly if you're a Kenpo stylist, then you know we love to kick the opponents towards the groin. It's a great self-defense tactic, and with the knee angled in this manner, if you try to kick directly through, you're going to have to bypass this knee. So we've just created a bit of an obstacle to slow you down somewhat. So don't point your toes forward or stand wide because you're asking to get kicked. If you're across paths with a Kenpo guy, then it'll probably be the last time you stand in a fighting stance like that. Okay, so next you might be asking yourself about your weight distribution. So right now, my weight is 50-50. I'm right in the center, so I'm very mobile and steady. This back leg is spring-loaded so I can propel myself forward to attack, and this leg is spring-loaded so I can propel myself backwards if I need to defend. So in this case, it really is a neutral position because you can engage in offense or defense quickly because your weight's right in the center. Another point in terms of your width or your side-to-side dimension, your stance. So let's say, for example, I'm delivering a punch with a back leg. The toe-heel line makes sure that my back leg is immediately behind my impact so I can absorb that shock from 12 o'clock. If this leg is out here, then it's like your brace is crooked. So if you get too much impact, that goes right against your weak line, which is between your feet. So the toe-heel line is one of the ways to make sure you have a proper bracing effect. Okay, the other thing is if you need to kick with the back leg, there's a pathway directly to 12 o'clock, whereas if you're too closed off, you have to kick around your own leg. You've made your own obstacle. So the toe-heel alignment really is going to be one of those details that's critical if you want to be a master practitioner, especially in the art of Kenpo Karate. Now let's talk about depth of field. So I'm going to turn to my side view here. I'm going to drop back to my neutral bow. I'm going to have my toe-heel line again. Feet 45 degrees, knees are bent, pushing out. So you have some stability and tension. This is not a lazy stance. So you shouldn't be relaxed. You should be tight. So he tries to knock you down, you should make it really difficult for them, okay? All right, so depth of field we mentioned. That is the distance from front to back. So is this the perfect neutral bow? Is this the perfect neutral bow? How do we determine that? Okay, so here's the best rule of thumb I've found over the years. If you can place your knee down to your heel, okay, that is an ideal reference point to try and keep your stance positioning, okay? That makes it perfectly tailored to your stature, regardless of how tall you are, okay? And the advantage of that is going to have a few things. One is your stance is not so wide that you can't maneuver or kick. We like to say that if you're too low, you're too slow because it's really difficult to execute a kick quickly. Or if your legs are a bit closer together, you can be very direct and quick because you're spring-loaded, okay? If your stance is too shallow, for example, then basically you're not very stable. So if the opponent bumps into you, you have a loss of balance. So that's one of the reasons that this rule of thumb really excels. The other thing is that from here, you can rotate through various positions and do it without having to make much of an adjustment. And by that I mean like sliding your feet along. Okay, so for example, if you go into a forward bow where the back leg goes straight and your hips turn square, notice I can do this comfortably with my heel buried down. The farther back my leg is, the more difficult it is to keep the heel down. You have to have a really flexible heel, and it's very awkward and cumbersome. So you want this to be in a range of motion that feels very natural. especially when you strike, this heel should brace itself down. So you have a strong bracing effect to support your strike and your impact. Okay, now, the other stance that's commonly used as Kenpo, which will really rely on this, is the twist stance. So if you rotate your legs so that the lead leg is twisted into the other one, then notice that my knees can lock into my thighs. So if I do this from the 12 o'clock angle, I should be able to rotate on the balls of the feet and lock this in tight so there's no space in here. So think of it like two pieces of rope. They're twisted tight together so they give you a little bit of support. Twist stances, as a general rule, are transitional stances. So you're not going to fight like this, but you might rotate through it and follow up with a kick or something. But what you don't want is this twist stance where there's a big gap here, because guess what? It's like those two loose strings that didn't get tight around. Now it's really loose and you don't have any tension, okay? So by maintaining that dimension, you should go right into your twist stance, right back out, forward bow, right back. Neutral position is your best position in that case because you maneuver through all of your stances quickly. Make sure you have really good habits, master the neutral bow stance. Okay, so for the real perfectionist, one of the aspects of the neutral bow is going to be how you line up your spine, and this takes a little getting used to, but with patience and effort, you will really have a good end result. So I'll expound on that. When you drop back to your neutral bow, okay, note that your spine should be perfectly straight. So that makes sure that when you pivot, it's kind of like you have this clean little swiveling effect when you go from forward to neutral. Okay, where if you are slouched or anything like that, then your body's going to be wobbling around. Okay, or if you stick your butt out or anything like that. So all those habits, they don't look very good and they don't work very well either. So those are no-nos. Okay, so one of the ways to work on this, if you find yourself, sticking your hips back a little bit or anything like that, work on doing like a little crunch in place and roll your pelvis in like you're trying to sit on it. Okay, the other thing is just making sure your spine stays nice and straight so you move forward to back. You're not over-committed leaning forward or over-committed leaning backwards. I'm Retana at Action Martial Arts. Thanks for watching today.